Hey guys, SeanB, and today I want to talk about the Steel Fortress and how you can beat it with your own unit and team, because I think I saw Jubego and Island Grown already posted the free-to-play version that you can use. So in this video, let's talk about how you can use your own unit to beat this boss pretty easily. The most important thing about your team will be the beneficial effect block, this debuff right here, and there are not a lot of units in the game that can provide this debuff. In the past, they give us Agar, the Dark Vampire, for free, and he can provide the block beneficial effect debuff and attack buff and attack leader skill. So he's an ideal unit for this dungeon. But if you start the game after the period where they gave this unit, you might want to look into these units that can buff beneficial effect. So Chigu is an okay spot, but he's not an ideal damage dealer, but he's not so bad. He can strip and he can block, which is really good. This skill is amazing because it stripped the defense and the shield buff, and it blocked right after that, which is really cool. The water unit will not be good because this is a wind dungeon, and they can glance the boss, which will not allow them to put the debuff on. The wind unit, so I'm using Pongbek, which is really good for the dungeon. He do a lot of damage, he's easy to build, and he has a skill that block and strip at the same time. The free-to-play version will be Arjun, the Wind Vampire. He can block the buff. This man is very similar to Agar, the Dark Vampire Lord. He can block buff with skill 2. He does a lot of damage with skill 3, so he's also an ideal unit for this dungeon. Very good. You can fuse him. He's free to play. My man Brick can also block beneficial effect for 2 turns. He can defense break, which is great, and attack by reduction to help with the team. He can do decent damage. Overall, I think it's a very solid unit for this dungeon if you have him build and max skill and not Arjun. I think she is okay. She can block buff as well, but because she's a nat 3, she's not really doing much damage. So I don't recommend building her. I think Arjun will be the unit for most of the people out there, free to play. For the dark element, I think this guy is really good. He brings AoE damage, help you to clear the trash wave faster. He can bring block buff, and each hit has 70% chance, so it's pretty decent overall. But he's not really free to play because he's a LD Nat 3, no secret dungeon. This guy can block, but he's not good. He's not a dungeon unit. The Dark Nat 5 category is really good. This guy is awesome. This guy is also pretty good with the block, and he brings branding as well. So these two units are very similar. They block buff and they bring branding. This is okay, but I don't think he's gonna be very good because he's not really a dungeon unit, doesn't really do a lot of damage. And Agar. So the top choice for me will be Arjun, Pongbek, Brick, Zinc, the LD Nat 5, these two guys right here. Another thing about the boss is gonna be the stun. So if you don't block the buff, the boss gonna be able to stun you very easily. The chance to stun for the boss scale with the amount of buff it has. So when it has a lot of buff, it can stun half your team, and that is very bad. It's gonna be really hard for you to recover from half the team being stunned. So if you want your team to be consistent, you want to bring some sort of immunity. Fran with the attack buff immunity will be the choice for most people out there. But if you want to upgrade to a Velaju to be safe with 3-turn immunity, he can strip as well. He can do some good damage. You are free to do so. I think it's also a very solid unit. So Front Villager will be the immunity unit for this dungeon. I don't think any other immunity unit will be good for the dungeon. And then you need a defense breaker. I think Lauren is solid for defense breaker. She can strip the defense buff after you block the buff, which is really amazing. She also keep the boss down because when the boss take a turn, it get 2 more buff, and that will just hurt your team a lot. So right here, as you can see, even though we are having 2 block buff unit, the first one got resisted, and the second one is not using it just yet. And because it is a skill 2, no smart AI. It's not a skill 1, so you're not landing that thing anytime soon. If you miss it once, it's gonna take them a while to get it back. You can definitely run a speed team with only 1 buff blocker. It can be Pongbek, it can be Agar. You can run your Lucian, your Crow. You might see some 30-second team in the leaderboards, but it is not consistent because you cannot control whether they use the skill or not and whether you land or not. So right now I land that skill, I can start doing damage. Without that, it's very hard to do damage. You can bring in unit like Jean, the Fire Phantom Thief, or Sniper to do damage. I thought they're gonna be good, but they don't do enough damage because the damage reduction from the boss scale with the amount of buff it has. So even with 2 buff, the damage reduction is very, very good, and you are not really doing much damage either. I'm putting Rogue right there so that he can potentially team up and reduce the cooldown of these buff blocker skill. So in that way, I can get the buff block up faster, more consistent. If the first turn I don't get it, it's gonna be a pretty long run. So the good run will be the run where you land the buff block in turn 1. That's when I get my 1 minute run, but sometimes it's just so bad. So bad. So you craft your team, you want damage, you want buff block, you want immunity, and you want defense perk. These are the elements that you need for your team. Definitely not a 30-second team anytime soon for everybody, but from that list of requirement, you can craft your own team. You can run some sort of Velaju, Crow as well. I think it's not so bad, but definitely need a buff blocker. If you want your team to be consistent, definitely need an immunity unit. If you go to the leaderboards right now, I saw some Lucian, Helia, Agar, Crow team with Lin, and it's super fast, but it's definitely not safe. I think it's pretty much a manual run if you're running unit like that, because you cannot control whether they're using that skill or not. So when you go into this stage, please use that skill. Come on, Pongbaek. Yes, this is a good run because I go in, I immediately strip a defense buff and block the upcoming defense buff, and now the boss cannot do anything. The skill that stun skill with his amount of buff, and if he doesn't have any buff, is not going to stun me, which is really, really awesome. And the right ball cannot boost much attack bar because there's no buff. The amount of attack bar boost scale with the amount of buff that the boss has, so it doesn't boost much attack bar. The moment I go in with the buff block skill, it's gonna be awesome. I think it's a way that Comta's trying to tell us that this effect is useful. So this is my premium team. I'm using Crow for big damage, and Velaju for 3-turn immunity, also provide a lot of damage. Agar for the attack buff, so Fran will be useless, and Rogue doesn't exactly do a lot of damage. So this is the premium team. Hopefully it's gonna give us some good runs. It was a minute run when I did it, which is not bad. I really have to pump my Pongbaek damage up a little bit, but it's really hard to get him fast and do good damage without a need for attack buff. I cannot rely on Agar to give me attack buff. It's not gonna be consistent. I have to make sure that Pong can do damage that can kill the wave without attack buff. And Pong's skill is not even that consistent. So sometimes he would use skill 2, and that is pretty bad because we want to save the skill 2 for this round right here. I need to land that. If I don't, oh, not good. So Lauren on Violent is also pretty bad because she's wasting all that turn for pretty much nothing. Okay, Agar, weaken. We land the buff block. We land the branding. We strip the defense buff. We have attack buff right now. So this is looking to be a pretty good run. But in this run, I don't have healing. I only have the vampire effect from Agar. And that is not exactly good healing if you get stunned. But because we land the buff block pretty early on, so I think this one's going to be a minute and 5-second run. So this will be my slightly faster team compared to the other team. But I don't think it's going to be that consistent as well. I need to fine tune certain things. Especially take a Lauren off Violent. But Lauren is on my Guild defense and all that. So I need to build like a fresh Lauren that is fast and high accuracy for this dungeon. I don't think BJ5 Lauren is good enough because that one is pretty slow and pretty switchy. There'll be situations where I think the Lauren will need to survive and take some hits. So I don't think the BJR5 Lauren will be good enough for the dungeon. We need our tuner speed, maybe on Revenge Rune. Actually, no, not Revenge Rune. Just tuner speed, good accuracy, potentially on Fight Rune. I think that's going to be the most optimal. But not the BJR5 standard. So right here, the Velaju cut in between and steal the spotlight from the Pongbaek. That's not good. Can I buff? Oh, which means I don't have buff for next turn. So not looking very good, to be honest. Not looking very good. We don't have buff right now. Come on, Lauren, can you stop? Can I block? See that? He used skill 1. He could have used skill 2, maybe. I don't know. 2-turn stun on... Look at that. Look at that. Even with immunity, it's really, really scary. And I think Crow is dead because he's not moving. Okay, Crow is dead. So if the boss start out with 2-turn stun, it's really bad. When the boss doesn't have buff, he doesn't stun, which is really, really good. And right now I think I'm safe. But when the boss start out with 2-turn stun, oh boy. Having immunity is really important. If you can buff immunity turn 1, then you are very, very safe. Right now it's looking a little bit scary because I don't have much healing. I don't have any healing actually. So Lauren might die. Oi, oi, oi. See that? Oh, I have dots though, so it's not that bad. Oh. Am I losing? Okay. See? It's really scary. But those are the elements you want to have in your team to craft a really, really good team. Oh, that's my team. Oh, there's a no immunity version that I run as well, but this one will fail if I don't land the buff block in turn 1. Like, this team looks really cool, right? But as you can see right there, if you go in with no buff block, and this guy is not gonna buff block, you will die pretty much easily. 2-turn stun on your team, GG. You cannot recover from that because without immunity, no. Yeah, this is pretty good. He can go in with the Dark Beastman block immediately. The thing about Beast Monk is that he can cycle turn very fast, so getting that buff block up will be really, really easy. So yeah, that's my team. Let me know in the comment section down below what team you use. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.